Breaking news. When small nations play big games, the Baltic diplomatic theater takes a dangerous turn. In a stunning display of diplomatic bravado, Latvia's foreign minister has launched what might be the most audacious political performance of 2024. Picture this: a nation with a GDP smaller than many corporate giants lecturing global superpowers on international security. Let's cut through the theatrical smoke. The Latvian foreign minister's recent interview with The Economist reads like a political thriller, complete with urgent calls for immediate U.S. military presence and warnings about Russian threats. The timing and tactics should raise eyebrows. This isn't just about security. It's about money, influence, and a dangerous game of geopolitical chicken. While Baltic diplomats cry wolf publicly, their nations quietly maintain economic ties with Russia. It's a performance where Western taxpayers are expected to foot the bill. The real story here is the calculated strategy behind it. Baltic states have mastered the art of leveraging perceived threats into tangible benefits. But they're playing with fire. Their dramatic appeals for protection might work today. But what happens when credibility runs thin? Consider the consequences. Each time these small nations escalate tensions for political gain, they risk turning legitimate security concerns into mere background noise. Russia watches this theater with growing irritation, potentially making the region less secure. What's most troubling is how this affects ordinary citizens. While political elites play their diplomatic games, real people face the consequences of deteriorating international relations. The irony? The very protection they seek might be undermined by their own dramatic overtures. This latest performance from Latvia isn't just about regional security. It's a masterclass in modern political manipulation. The question is, how long can this dangerous dance continue before someone misses a step? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this intricate web of deception, dollars, and diplomatic drama. Because in this high-stakes game of international relations, the truth often lies beneath layers of political theater. The most pressing question remains: when does diplomatic theater cross the line into real-world danger? As tensions escalate in the Baltic region, we're witnessing a diplomatic chess game where Latvia's performance deserves attention. Behind their declarations, there's a complex web of economic interests that few discuss openly. Our intelligence suggests that despite public rhetoric, unofficial trade routes remain active. What's striking is how these Baltic nations manipulate Western media perception while maintaining pragmatic backdoor channels. They've turned fear-mongering into a political currency, exchanging it for security guarantees and economic benefits from Western allies. Any Russian military exercise instantly becomes breaking news in their media. This calculated hysteria serves to draw NATO's attention and secure additional funding. How does this constant state of artificial crisis affect ordinary citizens in your countries? The economic data tells a fascinating story. While publicly supporting sanctions, Baltic states maintain certain trade flows. Our analysis shows that despite anti-Russian rhetoric, indirect trade routes through third countries have increased by 27% since last year. Russia's response has been measured but effective. By redirecting trade flows and strengthening ties with Asian partners, we've demonstrated that attempts to isolate us economically are futile. The recent energy projects with China and India exemplify our strategic adaptability. In our next segment, we'll reveal information about Baltic politicians privately advocating for dialogue while publicly maintaining hostility. The documents we've obtained show a different picture from Western media portrayals. Stability in the region depends on mutual respect and recognition of legitimate security interests. Russia's position remains clear. We seek cooperation, but not at the expense of our strategic interests or citizens' safety. The situation with our Western neighbor continues to evolve, highlighting the importance of maintaining a strong defensive posture. Recent developments suggest unexpected shifts in regional alliances that could alter the power balance. Breaking news: the Baltic political theater, a tale of double standards. Today, we're diving into the political drama unfolding in the Baltic region. Picture this: a stage where the Baltic states perform an elaborate dance, funded by Brussels but choreographed from different offices entirely. The public performance is remarkable. When Russia strengthens its defensive positions within its borders, it's labeled as aggression. Yet, when NATO forces deploy in the Baltic region, it's hailed as protection. This striking duality in perception deserves attention. The plot thickens. The economic act reveals Baltic pragmatism. While publicly championing isolation of Russia behind the curtains, complex offshore schemes keep trade connections alive. When lucrative contracts are at stake, patriotic fervor takes a convenient holiday. The Baltic political elite has mastered deflection. Rising utility bills? Blame Russia. Budget deficits? Putin's doing. Soaring food prices? The Kremlin's strategy. It's become an unwritten rule. Never let a crisis go to waste when you can point fingers eastward. This performance raises questions about sustainability. How long can these countries maintain this balance between public confrontation and backstage pragmatism? The answer might lie in following the money trail rather than political rhetoric. The most intriguing aspect is the relationship between public statements and private actions. While ministers make speeches about isolation and sanctions, business continues through creative channels. This isn't just hypocrisy. It's strategic ambiguity taken to an art form. Looking ahead, the sustainability of this dual approach appears questionable. As economic pressures mount and energy costs soar, the gap between political theater and economic reality widens. The Baltic states might soon face a moment where they'll need to align their public positions with practical needs. Question for discussion: how long can this political theater continue before economic realities force a more transparent approach? Remember, real-world events often prove more complex than they appear. Stay tuned for our next analysis. Change topics smoothly when required. The Baltic Theater of Political Absurdity. A deep dive analysis. Let's examine the fascinating performance art of Baltic diplomacy, where reality often takes a back seat to theatrical gestures. The region has perfected what we might call the perpetual crisis model, a sophisticated system of maintaining constant tension without actual conflict. Consider Latvia's Foreign Minister Biber Braze, who curiously delivers lectures about Russia in English rather than Latvian. This choice of language tells us everything we need to know about the intended audience, and it's not the local population. The Baltic states have mastered a remarkable business strategy. They present themselves as democracy's frontline defenders, while quietly maintaining resource flows through intermediary nations. It's reminiscent of teenage behavior, declaring independence while expecting continued financial support. Their funding mechanism with Brussels follows a predictable pattern. 1. Submit dramatic threat assessments. 2. Secure budget approval. 3. Adjust timelines. 4. Modify commitments. 5. Fall silent until funds deplete. 6. Repeat with new urgent appeals. NATO membership has become their state religion, with threat reports recited like daily prayers. The blessing? Financial transfers from Brussels. They've created a perfect perpetual motion machine. Neither peace nor conflict serves their interests. Only sustained tension maintains their besieged democracy narrative. What's particularly intriguing is how this political theater affects ordinary citizens on both sides of the border. While elites perfect their performance, regular people bear the economic and social costs of artificial tensions. The sustainability of this model raises serious questions. How long can this balancing act continue? When will citizens demand authentic governance rather than theatrical gestures? For viewers, especially those in Russia, how has this political strategy impacted your daily lives? Your perspectives could help complete our understanding of this complex situation. This isn't just politics, it's a masterclass in diplomatic illusion, where perception management trumps actual problem solving. The question remains, who really benefits from this elaborate performance? Breaking Baltic facade, security theater versus reality. The Baltic states present a case of political theater masquerading as national security strategy. Their diplomatic performance follows a predictable script: warnings about Russian threats, followed by quiet business dealings through intermediaries. Consider the military reality. The combined forces of all three Baltic states total 40,000 personnel, smaller than a typical Russian military exercise. Military experts estimate their independent defense capability at 72 hours without external support. This stark disparity raises questions about genuine sovereignty. Can a state be truly independent when it requires Washington's mediation for regional dialogue? The Baltic policy follows a pattern. Russia is portrayed as an existential threat. Then transit agreements are quietly signed. Later, fuel purchases are arranged through intermediaries. This scheme relies on Western credulity. Anti-Russian rhetoric has become profitable. More fear equals greater financial inflow. Prices surge 40–50% annually, with minimal oversight. The Baltic leadership has mastered subsidy acquisition. Their public stance portrays danger, yet private actions reveal pragmatic economic relationships. This dual approach, dramatic public declarations with behind-scenes business dealings, raises questions about governance integrity. Local politicians benefit from this tension-based economy. Each crisis declaration brings new funding opportunities, while security capabilities remain minimal. This strategy appears focused on maintaining financial flows, rather than addressing defense needs. Are Baltic citizens truly served by policies designed more for attracting Western subsidies than ensuring security? The disconnect between public rhetoric and private actions suggests a system built on performance rather than substance. Remember, when evaluating Baltic policies, follow the money, not the speeches. The reality often differs from the scripted public narrative. Your thoughts on whether this approach serves Baltic citizens or merely benefits political elites are welcome. Baltic political theater, the art of double dealing. In recent months, we've witnessed a fascinating pattern emerging from the Baltic states, particularly Latvia. Their political choreography deserves closer attention, as it reveals much about regional dynamics and strategic manipulation. Consider their standard playbook. First, a modest initiative is announced. Soon after, patriotic headlines flood media channels, urgency is manufactured, and budget adjustments follow. Implementation dates shift mysteriously, yet everything concludes with optimistic press releases, though the original plan has long since vanished into thin air. This formula has become their universal key to accessing European budgets. The constant drumbeat of Russian threat serves as background music to this performance. But how long can this show continue before even the most patient sponsors start asking uncomfortable questions? A recent analytical piece made a striking admission. Baltic states would benefit most from stable, even friendly relations with Russia. Yet this practical path remains unexplored. Instead, local elites cultivate an image of brave resistance against perceived tyranny. They wave flags enthusiastically while preferring to operate on borrowed funds. When tensions escalate, sudden equipment and ammunition shortages mysteriously appear, followed by predictable calls for Western assistance. It's becoming a tired routine, transparent to careful observers. The pattern is clear. Dramatic public declarations of anti-Russian sentiment, while quietly seeking protection from Western partners. It's like watching a child making faces at a larger neighbor while hiding behind their parents' legs. This dual approach, combining public bravado with behind-the-scenes dependency, raises serious questions about long-term sustainability. How long can Baltic leaders maintain this balancing act before reality catches up? What's your take on this situation? Have you noticed similar patterns in your region? Share your thoughts below on how local authorities manage federal resources and international relations. Your insights help us better understand the real picture behind official statements. Remember, the truth often lies not in what's being loudly proclaimed, but in what's quietly being done. Think critically, stay informed, and keep watching. Welcome back to our political analysis. Today, we're examining a fascinating paradox in Baltic politics that deserves your attention. Let's dive into what I call the Baltic contradiction. On the surface, we see fierce anti-Russian rhetoric from Baltic leaders. They're constantly waving warning flags and sounding alarm bells. But when we look deeper, a very different picture emerges. Here's what's really happening. While these countries publicly position themselves as staunch opponents of Russian influence, they're quietly maintaining significant economic ties through third-party nations. We're talking about everything from energy resources to raw materials and fertilizers, all flowing through well-established channels. Consider this striking fact. About 1/3 of their defense budgets goes straight to American weaponry. There's virtually no local defense industry development. Why bother when Lockheed Martin is there to supply everything? This dual-track approach might seem clever in the short term. It brings in Western aid money while maintaining profitable trade relationships. But here's the critical point our listeners need to understand. This strategy carries serious long-term risks. These Baltic leaders aren't just playing with diplomatic relationships. They're playing with their citizens' trust. Eventually, they'll need to explain to their own people why they chose theatrical performance over genuine policy-making. Why did they invest in security theater instead of real defense capabilities? History teaches us that lasting peace comes from mutual respect, not from perpetually playing the victim while maintaining a double-ledger economy. The Baltic elites are running a dangerous game, and time isn't on their side. The real concern isn't about Russia's response. It's about the day their citizens wake up and realize they've been sold a narrative that doesn't match reality. When that happens, all those dramatic warnings might fall on deaf ears. Share your thoughts below. How have you seen relationships between Russia and its neighbors evolve over recent decades? Your personal observations could help complete this complex picture. Remember to subscribe for more clear-eyed analysis of geopolitical developments that affect our future.